Yes.
So between D and A is really like if you look at my right hand, I'm gonna put myself back on the. I always put myself off of the screen because I'm so tired of looking at myself. And I told Jennifer that one day, and she said it was during the pandemic, and she said I'm tired of looking at you too.
Oh,
Anyway,
complimentary, not.
she's mostly Scottish. She can't help it. See that?
Yeah.
Now, right now I'm doing it with a lot of double stopping because that's what I kind of do when I play that too. But I'll do it a little cleaner so you can see,
Okay.
you know.
Oh,
And if
yeah.
you notice, when I'm doing the double stopping, it's just a little bit less effort because I don't need to get all the way off of the other string. That's the clean. See what I mean?
So you're keeping on the upper, you're keeping the bow on the upper string, Dan, or are you just keeping it closer?
I'm
It's
keeping between.
yeah.
You know what my buddy Kim used to say? You aim for the string between them, and you're
Okay.
off on it. And
Interesting.
especially with D and A. That's what I'm describing is more for D and A than anything because for G to D string crossing, it's a little tougher because it's the G is up in the air.
Yeah. I can't reach that far.
So for instance, Big John McNeil. See how it's a little more pronounced, and I have to I go up like this to get the G with like an English drinking a cup of tea. See,
Okay. You
and then
also have your arm on, sorry, your fingers upper, higher on the bow itself. You're not, you're farther away from the frog.
you know that people have mentioned that, and I think that I don't really have a consistent place I put my right hand on the bow. Now
Okay.
there are advantages. If I'm playing a tune that is all in the upper third of the bow, I'm probably going to be ending up choking up on the bow a little bit because you can really get a good kind of weight where you're making a decent sound with absolutely no effort at all. See
I
that?
see. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if I'm playing mostly here, like for instance, Jazzy Maggie, that actually works out really well because I can get a good eighth note just with my finger. See that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's how I do 90% of that bowing, right? If you look at my arm, it doesn't move very much.
No.
See that?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
Wow. The
dive,
tip. Okay.
and then and kind of like eat like that. And we've done bow push-ups.
Yeah, I remember.
So it's kind of like that. It's like the push-up to get up and the deep dive to get back over.
Okay, and that's only with your two fingers. Like that's really
Well, to tell you the truth, this
okay.
one gets involved as well, the third one.
Okay. Yep.
They really help with the picking up, and my our classical teachers used to say that these two fingers the only job they have is to be a guardrail for the bow for the pitch of the bow, and that this is the
Okay.
bow. Uh,
Yep.
but I've always thought to myself that they do a lot more than that. They help with the picking up as well. See that?
I see. For
For my
sure.
anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. That's great. Wow. Oh, wow.
Nice bow today. So one of my students, Larry, I don't know if you've met Larry there, Elaine, but he's an ex-lawyer. He's retired now, and he did violin when he was young, and he's a good fiddle player for sure. And he was at a friend's place up in Stouffville, and in a trunk in this friend's place, she wanted to show him was a violin. It hasn't seen the light of day for I think he said 60, 70 years. This violin. And
Wow.
it belonged to a family, the Frickers, that were the very founders of Taffel Music, which is the early music ensemble here in Toronto, and they're incredible. They still go at Trinity St.
The
Paul's.
Tafel music.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that. Yes, for sure.
And I find Taffel music fascinating because, well, I know a couple of them because we have something in common. They play early music, so hundreds of years old, and so do we. And the main guy, the violinist, Edwin is his name. We talk a lot about that. It's very interesting. The approaches are very similar, you know. Uh,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
his violin is gorgeous. It's perfectly set up. Hasn't been played in decades. And he pulled the bow out, and the bow is a hill from England. 10,000 bucks. It looks like it's from the late 1700s, and it's been sitting. It's perfect as well. The camber is perfect. It's perfectly straight, and it's got a silver tip, and it's been sitting in this trunk for decades.
Oh my.
Unbelievable.
Wow. 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 And these things don't get rusty, right?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think it did actually.
Oh,
Because it was absolutely mint condition, except when I went to tighten it, it was hitching up, which tells me that the screw and the collet probably are a little rusty. You need a little grease or maybe even a new one.
yeah. Interesting.
Oh man,
Wow.
it's great.
Wow. That's amazing.
Now I forgot to mention about the AE. So we talked about the DA string crossing, right?
Right.
And that's, you know, we got that sorted. So that's, you're gonna do that with your fingers. GD string crossing requires a little bit more of the arm. My arm goes up a bit. So let me see if I can show you. Okay, and then, so you see how my arm just dropped a tiny bit.
It did. Yes. I see it.
And it's a good thing to keep in mind because back in the Royal Conservatory days, they used to say the low side of the fiddle and the high side of the fiddle. Both use the A string. So the low side is GDA and the high side is EAD. Okay?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you're kind of either playing on the low side or the high side. So, and they used to say that your elbow is allowed to move to the low side or the high side up to a half inch. So
Oh, that's not much.
but it does help. And then I think I go a little bit more than that. And then also, it should always follow your hand. So your hand goes over to the low side of the fiddle first, and then your elbow comes up to make it to meet it. See
Oh,
that? And then your hand goes over to the high side, and your elbow will come down. Now, I always use Big John McNeil as the example. So watch my right arm. See that? So my hand
yep.
along there, and then there. Whoop! I'm good. And then my hand goes down here, and then ooh, there I go. See that?
Yeah. Yeah. Very visual.
Now the other thing is the AE string change, which is unlike the others because the A goes out and the E goes up.
Yeah.
So
Now
I
what?
call that the spread and the scoop. So it's kind of like, see that? Okay, so it's got a little bit of spreading movement to get the bow moving on the E.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Wow. Yes. That's hard. I know that. That's why I get my squeaky sounds all the
Now the
time.
squeaky sound. So I'm sure I've mentioned the 5 leading causes of squeaking on the violin. Sometimes I feel like one of those, injury lawyer ads. Anyway, 5 leading causes of squeaking. So you got to figure out which one it is.
Yeah.
Some I find that often with string changing, it's the touching other strings while your fingers are still touching that string. I find that's a very common thing with string changing. But also it could just be tight tension. You know,
Oh, I see. Physical tension.
yeah, because as you said, it happens when the speed goes up, and that's kind of a classic symptom. So the right arm, so you could be going nice and smooth, and your strings crossing, and it's all good, and then the tempo goes up, and now you're doing it with the whole arm. Ah! See
Yeah.
what
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's it. Right. Right on. So I need to relax.
well, don't we all?
Yeah.
And I tried to very, very hard after crawling out from under my car with the plastic cowling and throwing it in the back. But it didn't take me long because when I got to the festival before the Irish guys that had gotten there the night before, I was pretty happy.
Okay.
And then when they finally arrived, they laughed so hard.
Not fair.
Oh, I was laughing with them. Anyway, so shall we work on our tunes with this string crossing idea in mind?
Okay, very good.
I thought Heather was going to join us tonight, but maybe she didn't make it back in time. Okay, so you were saying that, let's start with the Irish Washerwoman. I think it'd be great. But it's so good to talk about that stuff now, and especially to have it on YouTube. People hopefully will that'll help them. Okay. Ah, man. Jeez, my fiddle jumped a mile today. Bet you it was that rainstorm. That's better. All right, Irish Washerwoman. Let's do a quick G major scale. And before we do that, and then we'll get into it. The old Irish Washerwoman. All right. Ready, two, nice, easy. Arpeggio. All right. How did that go for everybody? You warm? Feeling warm in the key of G? Okay, that's good. Okay, so now let's see about this Irish Washerwoman. I think we can probably handle that speed, eh? It's not too fast. Now, we are going to do it. I'm going to do it 3 times. And the second and third time, I'm going to push a little bit. And I want Astrid, you to see if you can pay attention to the squeaking stuff, if it starts to come in when we go faster. And we'll see what we can do about that. And probably same with you, Elaine. I know that's something you're always working on as well. Smoothness with the string crossing. So let's do it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, how do we do?
You know, at the very beginning, the first time through, there were some squeaks on my crossroads, so I know there's something happening there. But at the second time around, it seemed like I was a little more relaxed,
Yeah.
and there was fewer squeaks. And then the third time around, you said we're going to speed this up, and I thought, okay, we'll give it a go. And I was struggling. It was like the first time I started to get a few more squeaks, but I knew I was a little more tense
Yeah.
and not too comfortable with that tempo. So
Okay.
anyway,
Yeah. Okay, well, that's good to know. So it's telling me that, especially, that was a good analysis. So I would say what's happening at this faster tempo is definitely tension, and it could be failure of your bow to move. Now, that's another thing about string crossing. It's one thing to cross over to that other string, but you got to make sure you actually play it. You actually move the bow on it. Because watch this. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. So now that's easy to fix. Exaggerate. Just kind of whip it around. Try to use lots of bow. Try not to take the brake pedal right off of your bow altogether. It might be a little bit messy at first, but eventually it'll clean up, and you'll have a nice, solid, confident kind of movement to the bow. Okay, let's try it again. Same thing. Okay, not too fast. Ready, two, three. One more. Now, as the eye doctor said, better or worse?
you know what? The squeaks were getting louder
At the faster?
when I was playing it faster and more exaggerated. Whoops, my dog. But as I was exaggerating, so was the sound. It increased. It was pretty
We could-
funny, actually, when I was doing it was just like magic. Like as soon as I was playing with more exaggeration on the bow,
Yeah.
it just came automatic. Like
Oh,
the
God.
squeak came automatic. But
Oh.
yeah.
Okay. So in that case, I mean, I think it'll still work. Just keep at it.
Okay.
Also keep an eye where you are in relation to the bridge, because if you end up close to the bridge, it might make that worse.
Okay, very good, very good. Yeah.
Okay. And how about you, Elaine? How are you doing with all that?
Okay, the string crossing is not so bad. I don't know what it is about this tune, but I have a thing about it. Like I struggle with it every time we play it.
Maybe it's Irish people.
I don't know. My
Is it-
mother was Irish, so I can't really.
Oh yeah, you better be careful. Is it that
Yeah.
second part?
I'm sorry?
Is it that second part, or is it the whole
Yeah,
thing?
it's the second part, particularly the last line of it, right?
Yeah. It's a bit of a hard lick.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I've just got this thing about it, and I know every time I play it, I muck it up.
Oh, and is it that third to third thing, I bet?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you try to put it on both,
Hmm.
but anyway, we'll keep working on it. Okay, now let's take that other tune there. What was it called? That Astrid just mentioned. There's Balkan Hills. John Ryan's Polka. Very good. Great one to work on. You know this one, I think, Elaine. Now, this one is famous because if you watch the what do you call it, James Cameron movie, Titanic, the steerage part is they're playing this tune. John Ryan's Polka. And it's kind of interesting. It made that tune really famous. In fact, I remember playing at a festival once in Guelph, and a lady asked for "Near, Far, Whoever You Are," from the movie, and I said, I can't play that. I don't know how to play that, and it's a song, but I do know this tune from the steerage part, and I played it, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I know that." So it became quite famous, and it's a great tune, no question. And it was the band that was on board that played that tune on the movie was called Gaelic Storm, and they're out of the States. And the fiddle player actually lived here in Toronto for a while, and I was actually her fiddle teacher. But that band, Gaelic Storm, ditched her in Colorado, left her at a rest stop, and kept going with the van and got another fiddle player. Not only that, they only got paid $2,000 to play that on the movie, which ended up being $2,000 each. Ended up being, I don't know how much money it made. It was a hugely successful movie, but I was surprised at that. Anyway. Okay, let's give it a go. This is one you can really get going fast if you give it a bit of practice, and it's all about being nimble with your right hand. But let's not go fast at first. Kind of like that. 1, 2, 3, go. one more. There you go. The poor people having fun on the boat. I listened to a podcast though. It's a great podcast I listen to called "The Rest Is History," and it's an Oxford guy and another historical guy that's actually an actor, but they're very funny British guys. They did a whole series on the Titanic, and there's a lot of misconceptions about it. They had the best third class of any ship on the ocean at the time. Like other ships, you know, you heard of cramped conditions and unsanitary, blah, blah, blah. Nobody had anything to eat or whatever. The Titanic had a really good third class. Like they actually had a really good second class. And it's kind of, everybody has the wrong idea about that. And also, the fact that there weren't enough lifeboats on the boat was a normal practice in British mariner practice of the day. They didn't have enough lifeboats because it was this statistical thing. Number of people are gonna die. No, you can't do anything about it. And then the other thing was, in the movie, the lower decks are all locked. Do you remember that? And they can't get out for like apparently it was 45 minutes, which is terrifying. But it wasn't because of anything classist. It was because U.S. immigration required them to be separated for quarantine purposes. That's all it was. And they did open the doors, and they worked hard to open the doors, but it took, like I said, 45 minutes. The biggest thing I learned that was shocking was that if the boat had hit the iceberg head on, it probably just would have pushed it out of the way. But the captain at the time panicked, reverse engined, and went to starboard. And so gave the iceberg its side. And that's why it ripped open the side of the boat, which is very interesting. If it was actually designed to just knock into an iceberg and just kind of push it out of the way, but that's not what they did. And as my dad used to say when he watched the movie, how come she didn't give him a turn on the board? At the very end with Jack and what's her name, Rose. And they're on the board, you know, it's an old door.
What does that mean? I'm
Well,
sorry.
at the very end of the movie, Jack and
Yeah.
Rose, you know, they're on the board. They're in the water, bobbing around on the board, and she
Right.
kind of pushed them off, right? Because they
Yeah.
couldn't both fit on the board. And my dad watched the movie. He watched that, and then finally she pushed him off, and in he goes, and he says, "How come she didn't give him a turn on the board?"
Oh wow. Oh wow. Oh wow.
I have to agree with him, you know. She
You
could
have
have
to.
a few minutes.
That's right.
Anyway, let's take a look at the Balkan Hills because I love it, and I haven't played it at all since playing it with you guys. It's also good practice for string crossing, certainly. It's the EA string crossing too, which is kind of has its own challenges. Okay. Oh, this E string has had the biscuit. Going down next week. That's better. Okay. And we don't have to do it fast. It is not a fast tune. Here we go. A 1, 2, 3. on, I gotta let Heather in here. She just showed up. But that was a good start. Everybody looks like they're happily moving along. But let's try her from the top again anyway. Give her a second. I'll join up there. Hi, Heather. Alrighty. Hi, Heather.
Hi.
We're doing.
Sorry I'm late.
Oh, don't worry about it. We're doing Balkan Hills.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
We're just doing. We got halfway through it, but we thought we'd stop and let you in.
Thanks.
No problem. Okay, let's do it again. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Long B. Take a little breather there. How is all that? It is a string changey tune, you know? It is got a lot of string changing. How about you, Heather? Feeling all right with that tune?
Yeah, I was just wait. It looked like Astrid was going to respond. I've actually been practicing this one, but I'm certainly not that fast yet. I'm grinding
Oh,
through it in the last part. I'm finally getting used to the is it called syncopation? The uppy downy. And right
yeah.
now it's pretty mechanical.
Okay.
But
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay.
it's
So you
it's a
say you were
challenging
saying
one.
that was a little bit too fast?
For me at this time, even though I've actually been practicing this one, but I'm finding it um I'm I'm paying more attention to getting the notes right rather than fudging through it,
Right.
doing the fingering but not actually hitting the notes. So I'm paying more attention to getting the right sound.
Okay.
So it's just taking a bit longer.
Okay, well that's okay. We're gonna do it again anyway. Now how about you, Astrid? What
Okay.
were you gonna say? If you can figure out your computer.
Oh, There it is. I got it. I, I, I was a little bit more tense, and when I found that I was tense, the bow, my arm just wouldn't move where I want it to go. So I'm thinking that might be a problem, but I haven't been playing it as fast. I think this was the first time I've played it as that quickly, but on a slower account, I'm doing okay. But I have a question. Because well, because of the 60th notes and all that, you're just going everywhere. What was my question? My question, it had to do with the movement of the bow. I mean, it's up and down. Is it supposed to be as an extensive move, like from the tip of the bow right to the bottom of the bow, or do we centralize it on the middle of the bow when we're playing this song?
Very good question. I would stick with, now you always want to use as much bow as you can. That's kind of my rule of thumb, you know. But, however, I would stick for, especially for this tune, with the upper third of the bow. And that's kind of where you want to be most of the time. Like I said, that's what they call the fiddling sweet spot. It's where you can just lay the bow on the string. It's going to sound okay. Excuse me. And also, you can change strings very nimbly here. Whereas here, you're fighting the stick of the bow. See that? The stick of the bow is kind of pulling you around when you change strings. Whereas here, it doesn't. So that's why they call that the fiddling sweet spot. You know, it's kind of the easiest place in general to play on the fiddle. Now, sometimes I find myself at the bottom because I need the weight, I need the bounceability, like see that? That's really worked out for me. That was the bottom of the bow where it's nice and bouncy and I just let her go. But for the most part, this is going to be your easy spot. Okay, let's try it again. Slower. Okay. 1, 2, 3. One more time from the top. Long beat. That's a lot of hills. How was all that?
I felt it was really a lot better playing it slower, and
Right.
I was a lot more relaxed. And I was thinking, as I was practicing, I was trying to think of when the next crossover was going to be. And when I did think about it, I was going slow enough that I could actually think it through and then have the proper approach. So, and I liked using the upper part of the bow. I think I was using the upper part of the bow. So
Yeah, I think
that
you
was
were.
great.
I was watching. I think you were pretty well doing that.
Okay, great.
And so that's great. Now, I was going to say, Heather, one thing that's going to help you for when the tempo goes up is try to keep your fingers in general closer to the fiddle. So when you take them off the string, try not to put them up in the air.
Oh,
I
okay.
call that spastic finger syndrome. It's normal. It's a
I'm a
very
spaz. Yep.
it's a very normal thing. And
Okay.
doesn't take much though to just try to keep them. My dad's teacher used to say, "You don't want a rabble; you want a standing army." But it doesn't
Okay.
to just remember that, and you wouldn't believe how much easier it is because instead of going like making the note and then going and finding it again, you're just kind of just dropping and you're just doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Increases your accuracy.
What I might do, Dan, I don't know if you have time for this in the summer, but send you a video of where I am at with this.
Oh yeah.
Because yeah, I actually got lost at one point, and I think I just haven't settled down. I just got here and I just set up and I didn't warm up or anything.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I'll send you a sample if you have
Oh,
time for
please
that.
do. I'd love to see that, or I'd love to hear that, but also see that. And this is a great time in the summer because I'm not hugely well. August is nuts, but July is pretty calm. So send me those videos and then text me, and we'll talk about it. Okay. Now, when you're practicing this tune this week, because we'll get together next week, same time, and it might be from a campground. We decided to go camping. But I want the string changing to be a big part of it, the upper third of the bow, and you're going to see how much you can do with your hand. Now, again, watch me play this tune up to speed, and you'll really see what I'm talking about. See that? Even that part. It's just very small moves, especially when
That's how it sounds. The fourth part. I just heard it. Like when you
yeah.
played it, it's like, oh, that's how it's.
It's my favorite part. I like that part, but I also like the long D. I'm a sucker for that long D. It's my favorite note. A piper told me once it's the first note I play when I pull the fiddle out of the box. He didn't seem too happy about it. I think it was bugging him. Anyway, so that's your job. So I want videos, and we'll work on it again next week. We'll get it up to speed. This is a really good one to work on. Okay, guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good week.